Hello, this is Marty Ettington, and today I'd like to talk about my book titled The History of Science Fiction and Fantasy and Summaries of Great Books to Read. This is a really interesting book I put a lot of research into, and here's kind of a summary of it. Whether you're new to science fiction or have been reading this genre for years, I hope you'll have as much fun reading this book as I had writing it. In this history, I've tried to include the best-known authors and most famous and interesting works. Many of these stories are groundbreaking. Some launched new subgenres, and some talked about technology which is now real or being developed. I've read almost all the novels here. I've also summarized various great novels throughout the book. These are stories you will enjoy reading. They might be examples of the changing genres or just really good yarns. There are a lot of stories I love in the sci-fi and fantasy realm, and I hope you'll like them too. I've read literally thousands of science fiction and fantasy books over the years, starting in the 1960s up until today. Some of the stories I've read have made significant marks on my life. My degree in engineering is also probably a result of my interest in science and technology from growing up reading the wonder and vastness of these stories. Here are many of the best books I've read and enjoyed. So it's a pretty long compilation of information going back to the history of science fiction or fantasy stories, all the way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Odyssey by Homer, and then who were some of the major figures in the history of this. Some 19th century authors, some people who made pulp fiction famous, some of the famous stories like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. And then into the 20th century, Analog Magazine, John Campbell, and different authors, Elsbreg de Camp. And there's too many authors to mention. I also mention a lot of series, many of them Hugo winners, authors, and you'll get a really good overview of the whole science fiction genre and fantasy genre by reading this history. I think it'd be really good background. You might find some new books you'd like to read also. Anyway, it's on my site, MKEttingtonbooks.com, and it's under the science fiction category. I think you'll enjoy it if you buy it and read it. Thanks for listening.